So, welcome to the first of the SWAID Sex Work Network events. This is our first event featuring Sydney Screams and Nikki. I'm sorry, I forgot your last name. Nikki, what is your last name?
It's Sequoia.
Nikki Sequoia, thank you. Okay, so this one is on how to pose for photo shoots. So if you want your friends to come and join, please send them the invite. The invite is posted in the chat right now. And feel free to post your questions in the chat also. I will note them all down, and we'll do a question and answer period at the end. So thanks for joining, and I'll turn it over to Nikki and Sydney.
Yay! Hi everyone. So I'm Sydney Screams, and I have been a photographer since I was in high school. Unfortunately, my best friend is not here on the call today, but she can vouch for me of having yelled at Lauren pose for this photo as early as freshman year of high school. After high school, I started modeling as well in front of the camera, and so I'm 35 now, and high school's a long time ago, so I feel like I am kind of uniquely qualified to help teach this class. And this is Nikki Sequoia, my dear friend and colleague who takes the best pictures of me.
I'm Nikki Sequoia. I'm the owner of No Filter Photos. We are a low-cost photography studio that specializes in trans bodies, BBW, actually all bigger bodies, not just women, and people of color. And I do this because I have spent the past 10 years of the industry watching who people take photographs of, what people take photographs of, and how they take photographs of these people. And I found a huge lack in qualified photographers for trans people of color and bigger bodies, and I decided to specialize that and fill that void. I've been doing photography also since high school. I used to take pictures of wildlife in the desert and sell them to like National Geographic and things like that prior to there being just websites full of stock photos. It's harder to do that now, but I'm very much happy that my subjects speak back to me now. I enjoy that. I do miss taking pictures of random lizards in the middle of the desert, but I really love showing people how they can grow and look absolutely fantastic in photos with minimal effort and just trust in your photographer.
And this is a trust exercise for me as well, because I did not wear makeup for this photo shoot. If you know anything about me, I'm always wearing makeup, and somehow Nikki still captured my best side, despite the fact that y'all are going to see the worst submissive poses ever. I'm sorry in advance. I'm really bad at being a submissive on camera. I tried for you all. I did my best. Are y'all ready? I hope y'all ready. We have y'all muted, so sorry you can't answer me. So yeah, are y'all ready to kick off learning about doing some photo stuff? I hope. I'm going to share my screen here, and let's go live. All right.
Well, while you pull that up, I'm going to talk. A lot of times when people take photos of themselves, they tend to immediately turn to, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't know what to do with my face. I don't know what angle the camera should be in. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Subtle differences and how you can go about doing 50 photos in one pose and have them each be different.
So hopefully y'all can see my screen. I'm going to check the chat real quick just to make sure that you guys can see my screen, and then we'll go through everything. Looks like y'all can, so awesome. So we're going to start. I think most of these photo sets are starting with me doing a really bad, boring pose. I look bored out of my mind, and nobody wants that. So when you are posing, you want to make sure that you are utilizing as many different ways of moving your body as possible. And one of the easiest, fastest ways that I can recommend that someone change their pose is listening to music that you like to dance to. Because as you dance, you move. and that will just automatically move you into a different pose. So additionally, the angle that you are posing in will change your photo. So this is kind of more a dominant angle where I am straight towards the camera, but Nikki is looking up towards me, which gives me a little bit more of a dominance vibe. This particular pose can also be really good for masculine folks who want to just kind of show how domly and manly they can be.
In case anybody's wondering, before we get too deep into it, these are shot on a Canon T8i with a 10 to 22 millimeter lens. So it's a wide-angle lens that allows me to get the whole room. Sometimes with these lenses, you do have to zoom in a tiny bit, as the wide angle can give you slight fisheye and stretch things out around the edges, which you might see in a couple of the pictures, but it works out really well, especially for masculine bodies. It helps elongate or widen the shoulders and elongate the legs on the feminine side. So just in case anybody was wondering, I know Jacob's in here, so I'm sure he wanted to know what I was taking the picture on.
So you can also see just a slight change of where my chin goes also changes the pose. So a lot of people don't know what to do with their faces, and just slightly changing which direction your chin is angled in, opening your mouth ever so slightly, is a huge and simple and fast way to completely change how your face looks in a photo. And then you've got a more masculine pose, which obviously any of these poses can be done feminine, masculine, and be like, all of these poses are for everybody, but depending on your brand, you probably have either a dominant or submissive or neutral brand when it comes to camera angles. And all of these poses are also ones that you can do whether you have an awesome photographer like Nikki or if you are self-shooting as well. So yeah, you've got a little bit more of a masculine pose. I feel like you have really good tips on masculine poses.
Yeah, so masculine poses is a lot of subtlety in differences. If you look at magazines like Vogue and just all the magazines that shoot both men and women, you can see side by side a lot of the time you'll get very similar poses with the slightest bit of difference. It can be a raise of an eyebrow. It can be the different. They can still see me, right?
Yes,
it can be the difference between a closed fist and a tilt and an open, whether you're masculine or feminine. It can be a longing look or raise an eyebrow. Anyway, okay, looks stupid. I'm sorry. Where you have a soft face or an eye. You know what I mean? Just little tiny subtleties can really change the vibe of a photo. And and we'll have more examples of that as well.
And your angle also matters. So here it's still a power pose, but as we switch to a different angle, it doesn't take away from the fact that it is more of a masked power pose, but it gives you a very different approach to the same pose, because changing your camera angles, whether you're self-shooting or you have a photographer, angles matter in how your shot is going to end up looking. It's not just your pose. I know we're just talking about posing for photo shoots, but I'm here to tell you, angles matter. So again, don't mind my submissive face. I tried, y'all. I really tried. I did my best. So for submissive photos, you often want to have your camera angled down looking at you, because it will force your eyes open more and give you kind of more of that doe-eyed, oh, help me, please, mister, face that a lot of submissives wish to achieve. So you can see here 2 different ways, 2 different angles, really. Same face, same pose. The only thing that changed is where Nikki took the photo from.
And if I'm being honest, the difference in height of the camera was
maybe 1.5 feet.
Maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet.
Yeah. This was before I put her on a stepladder. Help me, stepladder. I'm stuck. So then we're going into, this is technically still within the same pose, but we're going to show you how easily and quickly you can change make very subtle changes to change how your photos look. This next bit of or set of photos were taken in less than 3 minutes, and it's just very subtle movements that you'll see as we kind of scroll through here. So you can see.
Before you go, yeah. It's really important before you see this and how fast, if you are working with a photographer, it's very important to understand how they like to shoot. Some photographers do like to put you in a pose, set all their settings, and take a long time and get that correct picture. Whereas someone like me, I tend to tell my models that I would like them to make subtle movements and things like that, because I use a high shutter speed that allows me to catch clear in focus photos without blurry if you're moving. So in the high shutter speed setting that I use, I can actually take pictures during a scene and they will all come out nice and clear and look really natural. So again, I did this one with a high shutter speed so that way Sydney could move every time she hears the click. She can make one difference and we're getting a new picture every 2 seconds.
And especially if you're shooting for a studio, if you're hiring a photographer and your end goal is to get as many photos as possible, doing these very subtle pose changes will get you more quantity that you are able to kind of narrow down into getting a really good quality photo set. Because even as we were kind of narrowing this photo set down, there are shots where my face maybe looks a little silly, and we took those out because they're bad. But again, even with the bad photos, this entire portion that we're about to go into is 3 minutes off. So here's kind of a neutral, boring pose. And all I did was move my chin up to the side and I opened my mouth slightly. Angling your chin or angling your face is a very quick and easy way to change a pose. It's very simple. I didn't even move my arms there, but because of how I moved my chin, it elongated my back. And so it changed ever so slightly how it looks.
It also push your chest forward, and it gives you if y'all look closely, you'll see from the top of her head down to her hips and then over, you see the shape of an S. And shapes are what you want to achieve in posing.
Yeah. So then again, I dropped my chin, I moved an arm, but very subtle pose change that it's almost a brand new photo. And especially with studios, they want these different poses that you can choose from. So there I kind of bit my lip a little bit. I moved my arms. One of the things that I hear a lot with photo shoots when I'm a photographer is, what do I do with my hand? And I think one of the easiest things that you can do with your hands is play with the clothes you're wearing, play with your own body, play with your own hair, hold on to something, but keep your hands loose. You don't want to look like you're gripping onto something, because then you look really rigid, and ultimately rigid doesn't translate well on camera, especially for porn photos.
In that light, a lot of, I want to use the word pretending, but it's not pretending. Like when you're grabbing, let's say your butt, when you're grabbing your butt, in the picture, if you actually grab it and pull it like this, you're going to get a lot of twisting, a lot of skin discoloration, and a lot of just unpleasant marks as you're taking the photo. So you really have to be delicate and take some note, and the way you have to do it is you're almost pretending to be grabbing it like that. Just at a
you're very gentle with your hand motion rather than giving it a death grip. You want to pretend it is the most delicate piece of glass you have ever touched, and you don't want to actually give it a grip. You just want to be holding onto it ever so lightly. And I know that that's a really hard balance to get to, but practice. Even if you're not taking a photo set, practice how your hands look on your body, and you'll find that you learn very quickly how your hands affect how your body looks. If you give a squeeze, like Nikki said, changes your color. It scrunches up your skin. If you have your hand under your chin and you actually like give your face weight on your hand, it's going to have a very different effect than just kind of hovering your hand below your chin. And ultimately, you want to have a flattering photo, and so you want to hover rather than like push. So again, just quick eye movement, shirt up ever so slightly. Also, by the way, all of these photos are safe for work, unless you consider a St. Andrew's cross not safe for work. So sorry there, but yeah, just wanted to let everybody know in case you're worried. I'm not stripping. I didn't want it. So again, just quick, subtle changes. It gives you a whole new shot. And move your torso. I have not moved my legs or below my waist in any of these photos. It's just waist up movements that are completely changing poses. Don't be afraid to smile. You know, I genuinely hate hearing all the people that are like, you'd be a lot prettier if you smiled. But in photos, you know, sometimes smiling is nice. You don't have to use it, but give it a try. This one I did actually move my leg. Just to give a little bit more of a side shot. Not everyone loves side shots. I think they're cute as heck, so of course I'm going to use them. But even with that change of leg position, I went back to the original pose I was in, just ever so slightly different leg pose, and it changed how I look. And that's ultimately what you guys want to be achieving, is changing how often you look as often as you can when taking a photo set. Every photo, make it ever so slightly different, and suddenly you're going to have 100 photos, easy peasy, and you've probably not thought too much about it because you're just making subtle changes every time. Again, chin up ever so slightly. That's all that changed was my chin up. Chin down, still slightly different, angled to the side, you know. You got a lot of different poses very quickly, and I'm just going to kind of go through these because I want to be able to show you all more poses, and there's a lot. There we go. Beautiful. My next boring pose. At some point, being on your knees is an inevitable part of being in a photo shoot, because it's just easy. So you can lean forward, you can move your hands. This pose, or being in a doggy style pose like this, is hard for masculine folks unless they are in more of a submissive or bottom role. So if you are a dominant masculine presenting person, you may not want to do doggy style type poses, but it's still good to learn just in case you want to try them out and see if you can make them more masculine, because I'm gonna be real, I didn't quite know how to make doggy style more masculine.
For an example, if you want, you can go to transnificent.com or follow at transnificent1 on Twitter. That is the trans masculine site that I own and shoot for. And there are a lot of different examples of masculine in doggy style. It is a little harder to do that with, like, Sydney and my body type, to present that pose in a masculine way, just because we got it's a bit difficult. You can't get away from it. But you can see a bunch of wonderful trans masks posing in that position on Transnificent if you need some example.
So again, this is all starting from this position. I just leaned forward. I gave a little angle to my hips towards the camera. We made it cute. And then if you want to be submissive and breathable, there you go.
If you look again on this picture, you can still see an ace.
Yeah, you can. Because with this, I'm not sitting straight up. I'm leaning forward, which also will accentuate your butt, make it look bigger, make it look juicier. And in this industry, who doesn't want a big juicy booty? Everybody does. So here's Nikki's 4 photos.
So this is a little bit of a just very slight variation on going from feminine to masculine pose. This is kind of just standing basic, just to show you where we started at. Sydney is, eye level with the camera. And then our next one, I showed a feminine pose. You can't see how great it is because of my baggy sweatpants and holographic Julie's hair. But giving that really sharp turn, having a nice hand on the hip. If you look, I'm giving you an S.
You are, yeah.
And then to bring it to a masculine pose, you're taking away a little bit of that S, relaxing the shoulder, and giving it more of a power stance. And as you can see, it is still pretty much exactly the same pose. And all I did was lean back a little bit
And pop your toe.
and not point my toe. In the feminine photo, I was pointing toes, and then I stopped pointing my toes. I relaxed my shoulders. I let my arm kind of hang in a more relaxed way. I feel like a lot of masculine poses are definitely just relaxing your body. Getting into a feminine pose and then relaxing your body kind of gives you that masculine feel.
And then we get our submissive and breathable pose, or version of the pose. Again, that downwards angle looking at Nikki. Also, you got your submissive fingies. Submissive fingies are a great way to tell people that you want to be submissive. And another way to use your hands. So then we go into me standing here, and this is a lot of poses because I wanted to show you all just how easy it is to go from this to this to this. And this is these two photos are the same pose, just two different angles. But all starting from this.
And you didn't move at all between these two.
No, because you yelled at me not to. Yeah. And by yelled at me, she said, please hold still.
I really wanted to highlight the difference between a camera angle from down below and a camera angle from above.
Yeah. So even if you're self-shooting, just keep in mind how high your tripod is, where you are positioned in relation to that tripod so that you can either be dominant or submissive. And again, here's the same pose. Well, I didn't have my arm bent, but more neutral. So this is technically still on the masculine side. If I wanted to make it a little less masculine, I would bring my leg in closer, but I would still have one of my hips popped to the side, just to still give me a bit of power in the pose. And here's a great version of a masculine pose. Using your pockets is a great way to give a more masculine appearance. And still a power pose. I've seen a ton of hot femme babes in a pose similar to this, that it looks hot as fuck, even if you're wearing a t-shirt and shorts like I am. Again, another masculine variation of this pose, because I wanted to do a couple masculine variations before I go into just rapid fire being cute. This is a good shot for y'all to realize hair can get in the way. If I were to retake this shot, I would have taken some of my hair, put it behind my shoulder, and then just had a little bit in front, because here you can't see my chin, and it just looks like, or you can't see my neck, and it just looks very unflattering, because I have a neck. It exists. It's there.
The most common thing that I find myself saying to models as we take photos is hair to the other side, chin up,
yeah,
and relax your shoulder.
Yeah. So again, neutral-ish pose. Just quick hand motion, switch which hip I'm putting weight on. I'm accentuating one of my breasts there without being overly sexual. And so especially if you're taking like pretty people poses prior to a hardcore scene, like in a studio setting, they want a progression. They kind of want you to tell a story almost with your poses. And so starting with things that are less sexual, but still give that, oh, maybe maybe they are going to get a little sexual in the next shot. It really helps tell that story.
Correct. Yeah. Not only does that hand there accentuate the breast, but it's creating an S.
Hell yeah, that S.
It really is the essence.
Here you can see I'm leaned forward a little bit. It again changes the pose slightly. If you're someone who has a belly and you are comfortable showing off your belly, having your hands or a hand on your belly at some point is a really good way to draw attention to it. Because essentially your body is what people are looking at, and where your hands are placed can draw someone's attention to that spot. So especially if Nikki were a little closer to me in this shot, and you saw my hands on my belly, you would more than likely be drawn into my belly, which is, at least for my body type, one of the points of being in porn, is showing that off.
Well, and if you look, that's exactly why I tend to put that when you are accentuating your belly, or when somebody is accentuating something specific I tend to put that dead center of the frame, because that's where your eye is going to be drawn most of the time, is the dead center of the frame.
So again, use your hands to play with your clothes. Like I said, I stay fully clothed in this, but I tried to do poses that would both show off what you could do clothed or naked. Especially with studio shoots, if you're slowly stripping, where you're playing with a shirt, a dress, a sweater, whatever, a pose like this is really good. Also, if you are more masculine presenting, I would drop the lower hand and just kind of have it on my side instead of where it is here, kind of below my waist, because who doesn't love seeing a masked guy show off just that slightest hint of abs or belly or gorgeous features that are your midsection.
The other masculine version of this would be with, instead of her hand, the lower hand on her shirt, the lower hand would be pulling the top of the pants down a tiny bit while pulling the top of the shirt up.
Yeah. So here's another version. I've seen guys do this that look really good. Alternatively, it's okay. You're fine. You're fine. So with this pose, even still, it can be a more masked pose. It can be a femme pose. A lot of poses that we want to show you are poses that anybody can do, regardless of your gender presentation. So, look, I can be cute too. If you're using, if you're wearing clothes, you can pull them down, you can pull them up. I've seen poses or photos of people wearing sweaters where you don't really see if they're wearing anything under the sweater. They're just subtly pulling down their sweater, and I think that's sexy as fuck. I don't know. I don't have a sweater fetish. Maybe I do. We're learning things about me today, too. But a pose like this is really good with a sweater. It's really good with a dress. It's really good with any article of clothing that is long enough to kind of give it that pull. I know some people think porn is all about taking it off, but if you can be sexy and pull it on, you've just hit a whole nother level of your career.
Not only that, but let's say you are already unclothed and you are in a bed where you are allowed in that photo shoot to play with the bedding. You can also use that same tip for the bedding. If you want to hide a little bit and seem a little naughty in the bed, you take the sheets and you kind of spread it across, almost how Sydney is doing with the clothing.
So again, subtle hand movement, changed a little bit. I want to get through. There are a lot of me standing. This pose I don't love because I think it looks like I'm about to maybe like poop. So just be mindful of like where your butt is in relation to the camera and how low are you going. My leg that is closest to the camera looks very stiff to me. And it just looks like maybe I'm about to fart. Maybe I'm about to poop. And nobody wants that. So
now, on the photographer side, I was taking all these from one spot so that way we can get a really nice base. But you can also remember that sometimes a pose might not look good in one position of the camera. But had I moved down to the downwards and looking up from more butt angle, would have been fine.
Yeah.
But it would also been a whole different picture.
Also, this pose, if I had done it with my butt towards the camera, towards Nikki, it would be a much better shot, and I probably wouldn't feel that I look like I'm about to fart. Move your hands up, move your hands down. You don't just have to interact with your hands on your body. You can also interact with your hands on your head, in your hair. I tend to avoid playing with my hair too much just because I do that all the time anyway, and I just feel like I get obnoxious playing with my hair. But okay, so this photo is one that I dislike for a very awkward reason, and that is one of my elbows is pointed straight towards the camera. And when I was in photography classes, one of the things that they told me was never have your knees or your elbows pointed directly towards the camera at like straight on, because it just tends to look awkward, and a lot of people have discoloration around their knees or their elbows, and that really draws your eyes in. Like, thankfully my elbow doesn't look terrible here, but like it could if I didn't moisturize properly an hour ago. So you can, if you're like, where do I go from there? How do I have this cute pose? drop your elbow down. You're still in a very similar pose, but suddenly my elbow isn't distracting you and pointing at you and almost looking a little threatening, in my opinion. What's that elbow gonna do? I don't know.
Also, if you notice in all of these standing poses, Sydney has either their weight shifted to one hip and or toes pointed for one of the feet in order to bend one of the knees to bring more of that shape.
Yeah. And having your toes pointed is a great tip for kind of elongating your body as well. Like for this shot, if Nikki was really low to the ground, or even a foot or two lower to the ground from where she is here, this pose would likely make me look a lot taller because of the pointed toe. Having a pointed toe towards the camera really will elongate your body, especially from a lower angle. And if you're someone like me who likes to trick people into thinking I'm 5'8", those camera angles matter. I am not 5'8", y'all. I am 5'1"-ish, 2-ish on a good day. So again, just going to kind of go through these real quick. I took very traditional porn poses because especially for busty people, they love when you push your titties together and kind of lift from underneath. It looks a little sexier. It really accentuates the titties, and, you know, we want that.
Same rule applies as we talked about with the butt earlier, with the more of a delicate hovering versus...
Yeah. Like, this, to me, I look very closed off. It's not as inviting as this one, which is... I'm gripping my arms around my waist a little less. And you can really see the difference, I think, in the pose. Oops, went too far. This one's very closed off. My shoulders are hunched forward. It's not as flattering as my shoulders being back. My shoulders being at an angle as well. Again, just cute booby poses because this one's always a really big hit for busty people.
Are all the people talk?
I think so.
Oh, nice.
Either talking or joining.
Oh, cool.
So. And then we came to the back because booty shots. You love them or you hate them. I love them. Even though this looks incredibly basic and I don't apply the bend the knee rule or point the toe rule, this is still a cute pose. And from a lower angle, my butt would probably look fantastic. Black shorts really hide that though, which brings me to a point that I forgot to write down in my notes. When you wear black on camera, the camera is looking at the darkest point to kind of set your exposure if you're shooting on an auto exposure. And so if you wear black, you are hiding your body. And at least for plus size people, honestly, most porn people, the point is your body. And so wearing black during a photo shoot, if it's not a lacy pattern, if it's not a semi-transparent pattern, if it's not a fishnet pattern, wearing just straight black, a black dress, a black t-shirt, whatever, you can't see that I have a nice butt. And let me tell y'all, I do have a nice butt. It is just hidden by my choice of wearing black shorts today.
That's what I do. It's been on one of my sets, especially recently. Almost every time it's bright colors, bring bright colors, bring bright colors.
Yep. But here you can see I applied the bend the knee rule. I pointed the toe. Can't tell because black shorts, but this would be a really good booty shot as well. If you are someone who is insecure about your belly, this pose at this particular angle, or honestly, even switching around a little bit, my arm that is closest to you all is hiding my belly a little bit. And so it is drawing more focus to the booty because my arm is framing the booty from the top and simultaneously hiding the belly. So if you're insecure about a belly, use your arms and side angles to kind of mask that. But also remember, your belly's probably gorgeous as fuck because you are gorgeous as fuck. I don't know you, but you are. And we want to see you.
Also, do not be afraid to share your insecurities with your photographer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I can spot it within the first little bit of the photo shoot what your insecurities are, and had you discussed them with me prior to the photo shoot, we wouldn't have half a photo shoot of me trying to figure that out.
Yeah. Again, chin just changed. I will point out here, you have to be very careful to keep your shoulder that is closest to the camera relaxed and drop it down. If I had hunched my shoulder forward, this would be incredibly unflattering because you'd suddenly just see my face going right into my shoulder. It's never a good look on anyone. Photographers hate it across the board. If you can see Nikki right now, like half of their face is just hidden from their own shoulder. It's not flattering, and we want flattering photos. So just remember, chin up is always a good way to go, even if you're trying to be submissive and breedable. So there you can see I raised my chin ever so slightly. I know I also moved my arm, but just the placement of my chin, it gave me a little bit more facial definition, and I personally like to have a slim looking face because slim face is a privilege, and I like to use it, or use that particular privilege. And so just keep that in mind as well. Like, how your chin is angled is also potentially going to have an effect on whether your face looks rounder, whether it looks longer, whether it looks thinner. And not to say that fat faces are bad, because I love fat faces. I just personally have my own preference for me. So this one I don't love, just because it's not really creating as much of an S. It's not as flattering, but I see a lot of people use this pose, and for some bodies that are perhaps a little bigger than mine, I think this pose would be really good because it still shows off the belly just from a side angle, and so you get a little bit of belly, a little bit of booty, a little bit of titty, and the best of 3 Bs.
I think also this pose would have been a lot better without the black shorts, like you had mentioned. Yeah. We're seeing a lot of it, like just a black square versus your actual wonderful booty.
Sorry, y'all, I didn't plan my shorts appropriately today. / laundry day. So here's a great one that, again, it kind of hides belly a little bit, but I also turned my torso more towards the camera so you can still see that I've got belly going on there. Again, a great pose for plus size folks, whether you're a BBW or a BHM. Your fans love your belly, period. Whether you love it or not, they do. And one thing I really want to point out here is, because I think you can see it really, really well, is with my pointed toe, look at my calf muscles. There's so much definition, and I'm barefoot. I am flat-footed. I'm not wearing heels, which heels will always give you a little bit more accentuation. I don't know if that's the right word. It'll accentuate your legs more. It will accentuate your butt more. It'll look really good. And so especially if you are barefoot or you're wearing flats, pointing your toes will still give you the same types of definition to your muscles as wearing heels. I don't think I did it today just because I forgot, but sometimes you will see me in photos on both tippy toes, like both feet are pointed, I'm on my tippy toes, and that's all because it makes my butt look rounder, it makes my legs look nicer, it gives a lot more muscle definition, and that's a really, whether you're wearing heels or just on tippy toes, it's a great way to make your legs and your butt look fantastic. Gosh, there are a ton of these ones of me standing, just very subtle movements. If you all want, I will put together a little downloadable that you guys can get of all of these different poses, because one of the things that you can do to help remember poses is have them saved on your phone, have them printed out. I know the first time I shot with Jacob, who I believe is still in here today, he has a whole binder full of printed out poses, printed out positions, and so it's great for people who don't necessarily know what poses to do or how to pose themselves, and so they need that visual representation or that visual stimuli to kind of learn how to pose. I will happily do that for y'all if it is of benefit, because I want y'all to have better photos. You probably take really good photos now, but better is good.
Elevate.
So again, I'm just going to go through. Oh, there's one where my shoulder is up. Look how that does not work. My hair hides my neck. My shoulder hides my neck. It's just not great. Potentially, if I were wearing less clothing, it might be a little bit better. But here, with the full t-shirt and everything, it doesn't flatter the way I want it to, or the way you should want yours either. But then moving myself ever so slightly fixes that. Oh, look, that's cute. I swear we looked at these before. We really did. I want to get to... Oh, here we go. Here we go. All right. Everyone tries the Captain Morgan pose at least once. None of us look fantastic, partially because this angle is not the right angle for Captain Morgan's pose. But then this angle is better, and that pose is fantastic for masc-presenting folks, for femme-presenting folks, for gender-neutral presenting folks. Like, it doesn't matter. The angle drops down. I'm giving more shape to my body. It looks good. It looks inviting. Maybe you also want to have a drink of rum with me afterwards. I don't know. Again, taking the Captain Morgan pose, adjusting it. I'm elongating my torso, which makes me look like I'm standing up straighter. It makes it look a little bit more flattering. We like those things.
Well, look how just that point of that toe, how much more that added to your leg.
Yeah.
You look a foot taller.
Yeah.
Just by pointing your toe.
Damn. I love looking tall. My 5'1" looking ass ain't shit.
At least you're 5.
So here's me being a little bit more submissive with it. Again, oh my gosh, sorry if y'all heard that. That was a dog just groaning. I'm sorry. So here's a more submissive version of the same pose. I will say here that I did myself a disservice by bringing my shoulders that far up. I could have still had my shirt pulled down and been looking up like that, and this would have been a better photo. So moving on to sitting. Very cute, easy, simple pose. Just, oops. Moving. So this one's a good masculine pose, too. Especially, like, if you've got any sort of definition, if you're muscular, if you're chubby, whatever, this pose is going to really show off what your torso looks like. And I realize that saying torso maybe doesn't sound very sexy, but again, it's all about showing off your body.
I do recommend in this pose that you give yourself a slight angle like Sydney does here. As you can see their calves, I'm pointing like they can see where I'm pointing. As you can see their calves you can see that they have the rest of their legs.
Yeah.
Very easily this pose can turn into you looking like you don't have the bottom half of your legs. So as long as you are making sure that you have a little bit of angle to you and that you can see a little bit of that here and there. And that it's still a hit and miss with this one.
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens, but
yeah.
Go for it.
And also on the same note of looking like you may be missing limbs, if I didn't have my left hand on my thigh, you may think that I didn't have a left arm. So also be aware of just where your arm is placed, because sometimes not being able to see a limb is going to have a weird effect on how people view a photo. And I don't really know how to quantify that other than it just looks wrong. It looks like AI.
Yeah.
You know how when you see AI and they have extra fingers and you don't notice it immediately, but you just see something is off?
Uncanny valley, it's called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Nikki knows things.
It's just where your brain isn't filling in something's wrong, like the feeling that something's wrong in the picture, but you can't figure it out.
So smart. I did not know what that was called.
Oh, smart because it's bigger.
Again, very similar pose. I'm just leaned forward. This is a good pose for busty people. It's a good pose for men. It's a good pose for non-busty people. It's giving you kind of a half S that Nikki keeps going on about wanting to achieve. And I guess if you included my legs, you've still got a little bit of an S. I had to.
The best one in the whole
This is my favorite photo we took today. So again, I've literally had models show up to a shoot where they're like, okay, I want to lay down, I want to do laying poses, and this is how they start. And if my arms were over my chest, I might look like a vampire, but here I kind of look like a corpse. Other than my eyes are looking at you and I'm pretending not to laugh because I knew how ridiculous this shot was. But a very quick move of my legs, move of my hands, a turn of my chin, took that to that. And from a tall angle, this looks good. Going down to a lower angle would look good. From a lower angle, I would tell you that this particular pose, if you were looking towards the camera, which you want to do, especially in mainstream porn stuff, rather than like an artistic thing, you want your chin towards the camera, towards the light, showing off you, because that is ultimately what people are looking for when they see your porn. They want to see you.
Well, and oftentimes people are trying to hide a double chin or something similar. Turning your chin towards the light, towards the camera, is going to eliminate shadows and make it less of any kind of double chin. A lot of times people don't have a double chin. It just happens to be the shadow that is making it seem that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, so making sure you're giving enough neck. Like, I don't know if y'all can see here, but the light's up there. So looking at you like this might create more of a shadow here than if I'm looking at you like this. And it would make it look leaner and less shadowy.
Yeah, chin up versus chin down. Also with laying poses, Nikki knows to shoot me kind of almost from behind rather than if she had shot me from like my waist area. That would also give me a double chin. It would give most people a double chin. Like even the skinniest of faces, that low angle looking up will give you double chin. So just be wary of your angles there as well. So this is a great masculine version. Even though Nikki is a little bit more towards my waist or my hips, she still they captured me in a way that my face still looks thinner. This pose, great for really everybody, but if you're a mask person wondering how I can make this pose look better, unzip your pants. Don't show us everything, but give us that little tease that's like, oh, maybe a little lower would be fantastic.
Also on the camera side, if you noticed in this more feminine pose, I have Sydney angled from toe to head is a corner to corner of the frame, whereas in the masculine pose, I went straight across. Sometimes the Dutch angle of a camera can create a vibe.
Yeah. So I'm going to rush through these because Jane just let me know that we've got about 15 minutes left. But again, just, this is cute. It's very femme. It's very soft. This pose is also good for mask folks who want to have a softer appearance. It's really a nice one. So now we're on to a fun part. That is lotion versus no lotion, because I see a lot of people who don't use lotion to their advantage. This particular shot is no lotion. Don't look at my face, or my chin, my neck, my shoulders posed poorly. Look at my calf muscle there. This is no lotion. This is lotion. You see a little bit more shine on the upper side of my calf muscle. You see a little bit more muscle definition. And also, a good thick lotion or a body oil will help the light reflect off of your skin so it hides imperfections. So honestly, I used to do a lot of photo shoots where I never shaved my legs, and you would never know because I just had a good thick lotion or an oil on my legs that so the light reflected, and you can't tell that I hadn't shaved my legs. And believe me, you can tell when I haven't shaved my legs. And then foot poses, because I figure a lot of you probably have foot fans. So toes straight up like that is a little bit more masculine, whereas if you point your toes or wrinkle your toes like that, it'll be a little bit more feminine. However, foot folks is foot folks. They don't give a fuck if you've got wrinkled soles, if you've got unwrinkled soles. They just want to see your feet. And so you can go from sitting very basic with your feet towards the camera. You can lift a leg up. You can lift both legs up. You can get in almost a pretzel pose. Although the pretzel pose is also really good for showing off feet, body, and genitals. Scrunch your toes. Point them towards the camera. Flatten them out. Bring your soles together. This is a Pilates V, which I learned recently because I keep going to Pilates. But just kind of move your ankles around, move your feet around, stack your feet on top of each other, both like this and more like toe to heel on top of one another. You can point at your toes, but when you are pointing, point at an angle, because if you just point straight down, it doesn't quite translate on camera. So here I am actually pointing more towards my ankles rather than my feet, because if I point towards my feet, it's going to look like I'm pointing towards the camera rather than towards my feet. And so don't point your fingers too far out. Point them like towards your ankles, and it'll give you the same kind of effect. Same thing here, just double fingies instead of one. Crossing your ankles is great. This is, if someone ever asks you to get in the pose, this is what the pose is. It's a very foot fetish oriented pose. It does nice things for your body. It does nice things for your titties. If you spread your legs, you get a little bit more of a masculine pose. But again, if you are ever doing a foot fetish shoot with a photographer and they say, do the pose, this is what they mean, period. So I think we're towards the end. Yep, we're towards the end. So it is time for questions. Oh, also with foot fetish stuff, doesn't matter how nice your feet are, lotion them or oil them. If you have any dry skin on your feet, it tends to show, especially with high quality cameras these days. So yeah, just put some lotion on them, put some oil on them. It'll look good. It might even make your fans think your feet are sweaty. And there's a whole part of foot fetish just for those sweaty feet. Yeah, I'm gonna let Jane ask us the questions that have come in from you all.
Awesome. We love a sweaty foot. Okay. Question 1. Tips on what to do with your mouth and your face to look more natural.
Thinking it. All right, a couple people have heard me say this. I was once told by a very, very wise model, say your vowels. A-E-I-O-U. Not every vowel is going to work for every person. But if you sit in the mirror and say the vowels, then you're going to find your favorite mouth poses. So, for example, you have, those are all A-E-I-O-U.
Yeah.
Easy.
E doesn't work for me because I always end up looking kind of like serial killer Granny. E.
Unless the O doesn't work for me. Like, but some vowels are going to work for some people. And that's just a good way to start learning how to move your mouth, because once you start doing that and getting comfortable with making subtle mouth movement changes during your photo shoot, you're going to start naturally just moving away and just moving it and doing like subtle changes like we did in like your photo shoots with your legs, you know?
Yeah. All right. So what is our next question?
We just got a question that says, will lotion help the body hair show more? So you have any tips on showcasing body hair?
If you want to showcase body hair, I would recommend, rather than using a DSLR or mirrorless camera, I would honestly suggest using your phone on the front-facing camera, because of the way it captures detail and captures light. Lotion probably won't make a big difference if you are a very hairy person and you are wanting to accentuate that hair. However, lube will help. And lube specifically because it sticks to where you put it. And so, like, if you've got a hairy bush and you want to show just how hairy you are, drip a little bit of lube on. Don't rub it in, but the closer people get with their detail there, it will accentuate the hairiness because it's going to look like there's something to cling on to, I guess is a good way of putting it.
Also, if you don't have the opportunity to shoot with your phone, one of the big differences that the phone does is higher contrast. So if you do only have your DSLR, you can boost your contrast, and that might help show more hair.
Yeah. Also, your lighting may have an effect. We tried to have good 3-point clean lighting with our setup today, which a 3-point lighting setup like we use today is good for minimizing imperfections, good for minimizing body hair. If you want to accentuate your body hair, consider changing up your lighting. Go for a more dramatic lighting angle but just be mindful of how it affects the rest of your body and your face as well.
If you have questions on lighting, reach out to Jacob. He's fantastic.
Yeah, Jacob's style is in here. He's fantastic. Sorry, Jacob, we're throwing you under the bus there. But Jacob is really, really good at lighting, and he's here based in Vegas as well. What's our next question?
Okay, next question, butt pose, picture ideas. We got a couple of those. This was asked earlier on, but if you have like any specifically butt showcasey photos.
Well, here, we're sitting on a couch, which is fantastic for butt stuff.
Yeah.
When you are doing a butt pose, don't want to just have your back flat. You want to arch as much as you can, which is dropping your hips down as you push out, and that will give you a little bit more roundness. From there, you can lift a leg up, so it kind of looks like you're a dog going to the, or a male dog going to the bathroom. It's kind of like a fire hydrant type pose, but it does good things for the butt, and regardless of what genitals you have, a low angle with that particular pose will show off both your butt and your genitals. And that's kind of something, sorry, Nikki, I'm about to use.
Oh yeah, go for it.
That's something like this.
Low angle.
Thanks, webcam low angle.
Another fun one that I really like that is also very common in studio porn is bringing your pants or underwear to the area right under your butt, to like right here, and you're pulling on it.
Yeah.
So once you have that, the pants on, you're kind of doing a little butt lift with those either panties or pants or whatever you're wearing.
You can also use your fingers to do the same thing, and this is kind of one of the rules that we talked about earlier that you can break. Dig in, and even though I'm wearing shorts, you can hopefully still see, dig in and push, and my butt looks kind of flat there, but then boom, look at that roundness that happens. And so booty poses and booby poses are good ones that you can actually apply pressure rather than kind of hovering.
Okay, rapid fire questions. Pro camera recommendation.
I shoot all my photos either on my phone, which is an iPhone, or on my Canon M50, which is a mirrorless. It's a consumer level mirrorless. However, Nikki always takes the best photos of me, and
I shoot on a Canon double TAI, which is actually a intermediate level camera. It's probably just out of the basic survival sex work affordable range, but the models that are underneath it, like the T6 to T7 right now, are very affordable and are very similar in quality. I just tend to use a wide angle lens, so I chucked all my money into the lens versus the camera. But yeah, it's a very straightforward, consumer level.
Prosumer, which is kind of your midway point between a consumer level camera, which are your basic Rebel cameras, and your more high-end professional cameras.
Well, actually, this is a Rebel. It's a Rebel TAI.
Oh, so they've kind of expanded the series.
They expanded it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, it's technically a novice to intermediate camera. I do also shoot on a Canon R5C, which is one of their pro grade cameras. I don't shoot a lot of pictures on that right now because I don't have lenses for it because they're very expensive. But I also do very much love using my phone. The only thing I highly recommend is when you are shooting photo sets on your phone, especially if you have an iPhone, get an app that allows you to control your white balance and your ISO and things like that. One of my favorites is called ProCam 8. It's $10. But what it does is it actually really allows me to set all of my exposure, my focus, my white balance, all of that. And that definitely makes a difference in both video and photography.
Hell yeah. Next question.
Okay. Okay, and I think this is probably our last one. Do you have any tricks for getting rid of lines on your skin from clothes when you take them off?
Drink more water.
Drink more water. Also, this one sounds very silly. Slap yourself. Just slap yourself over and over and over. It gets the blood flowing to that area, which is ultimately like, if I pulled my shorts down right now, I'd have that. And if I just slapped it away, it takes a couple minutes, but partnered with being properly hydrated, it does help. Also, you can take your photo sets in reverse if that is something that is concern. And I know that sounds really weird, but I also hate the lines on my body from especially tight-fitting clothes. Take your photo sets in reverse. Be naked.
That's smart.
Also,
Okay. Sorry, I have one more. Oh, go ahead.
Have some slippers and like a robe and things like that in your shoot bag, so that way, like in between shoots or, you know, going to set, you can wear something that is less constricting. That's also gonna help.
Yeah. Wear loose fitting clothes to a shoot. If you have breasts, consider going braless or wearing a bralette. If you are someone who lives in sweatpants, be aware of that elastic around your waist that kind of squeezes in. The looser your clothes are at every possible point, the less likely you are to have those lines.
Okay. Last question. This one was asked before, but how do you keep up when you're running through poses quickly in your brain? Are you like telling a story in your mind? Are you thinking about the shot?
I do a little bit of both. I don't always do what I consider to be storytelling with a photo set. Sometimes I just want to get to the point. And so when I am self-shooting, for example, I do far less poses, but that's because I know my angles, I know my poses. When you are still learning your poses, don't be afraid of taking 500 photos of yourself. Like, just don't. Because you're going to go through and you're going to learn what works for you. But I would say a storytelling for me was very helpful when I started out. Even if that story is, I'm clothed, I'm a stripper, I'm naked. And make it a scenario in your head that works for you. And I think that you'll find that you can capture a lot of photos. And again, just very subtle movements can change how you look.
Can I pull up the one on TikTok real quick?
Yeah. So Nikki has a great recommendation for a TikTok that you can follow for learning how to pose as well.
How do I say? Oh wait,
there. This particular photographer, I also have seen a lot of their stuff, and they do both feminine and masculine poses. They're fantastic. They're trans friendly. As Nikki said, they were at the Tease this past award show.
Yeah.
So take note of him, follow him. Are his pronouns him?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Follow them just in case they're not. And that way you can learn some great poses. Do keep in mind. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry, y'all.
Hello, pup.
You want to come say hi, Powder? You want to come say hi? You can come say hi. You can come say hi. Sorry, everybody. I'm puppy sitting this week for a very needy 7-month-old.
Oh, cute.
Oh my god. Oh my god. This is Powder. Powder, say hello to the internet. You're famous. I'm sorry.
Well, also, if I don't, were we in a question, Jane?
I don't think so. I think we are calling it here. Thanks everybody for coming. You can hang out for another second in here.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. I don't always get to my DMs, but I try my best to get to them. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Sydney or I. We're happy to help. And after being in the industry over a decade, we love seeing new people succeed, and we love being able to help the industry move forward into a more independent, safe in industry, period.
Can you all give us a little plug? Where can we find you?
Yeah. My Twitter is Sydney_Screams, and that's Sydney with a Y, as in the capital of Australia, or not the capital of Australia. Wow, self. Sydney, Australia. That's the way to think of it. Sydney_Screams on Twitter. My website is sydneyscreams.com. I also, on my website, have a lot of blogs that are geared towards content production and finding success within this industry. So please feel free to bookmark my blog. Check out some of the helpful blogs I've created. If you want to follow my photography account on Twitter, it's Sydney Takes Pics. And yeah, I'd love to chat with y'all and see what poses you've learned after all of this.
You can find me on Twitter at Nikki_Sequoia. It's SEQUOIA. And you can find my website on nofilterphotos.com. I do have a Twitter. I'm not really playing with it right now. I've just been a little bit busy, but it is at nofilterphotos with an F. It's Photos. Other than that, y'all don't need to know where my porn is. You can Google me if you really want that.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. We really appreciate you. Again, if you've got questions, please feel free to reach out. And we've got, here in the Sex Work Network, we've got over a month's worth of fantastic presentations planned. And we're already looking to the future because y'all are going crazy for these. So we'll see you next week. I think next week is Tegan's Dirty Talking webinar, which Tegan's fantastic. Y'all will learn a bunch. So we hope to see you there.